For what reason? The Arab countries, I mean, most of the Arab countries, including Iran, which is Persian, why do they have that hatred against Israel?
Okay, that's a good question, and a lot has been written about this topic. Islam, since its beginnings, has had a great hostility toward the Jews. Islam, particularly Shia Islam, even has concepts like, for example, that Jews are impure and all those ideas that Shia Islam has. In particular, the Ayatollah regime seeks to create a global caliphate. Parenthetically, Islam in general seeks for the world to be Islamized, and therefore, in an ideal Muslim world, there should actually be a global caliphate. But the ones who are actually taking action to make this happen are the Islamofascist regime of Iran. They are the ones who dominate the Shia faction of Islam, which in fact is the minority faction of Islam, but let's say among the two main branches. And since they are seeking a global caliphate, they see a couple of obstacles to reaching their goal of a global caliphate. Parenthesis, what is a caliphate? Caliphate, it's this kingdom, let's say this empire based on Islam, where everyone is Muslim and Islamic law, Sharia, and all of that is applied. So, Iran sees a couple of obstacles in achieving its global hegemony. And they call them the Great Satan and the Little Satan. Who is the Great Satan? The United States. And who is the Little Satan? Israel. So that's why they see, let's say, a thorn in their side when they see all of that. That among all those 20-something Arab countries and almost 50 Muslim countries, they see one that's just a tiny Jewish country. What's going on is that this land, the land of Israel, belonged to Islam for a good millennium. Maybe a bit less. I might be exaggerating since it was in periods, the Crusaders took it and so on. But in Islamic theology, there are concepts to divide territories, which are called Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Harb. The lands of Islam and the lands of war, what are they? The lands of Islam, it's any land where Muslims ruled in it. What is Dar al-Harb? The lands of war. They are all the lands where Islam has not yet ruled, according to Islamic theology. Not in all factions, but in the vast majority. Dar al-Islam, the lands that once belonged to Islam, are forever part of Islam. Forever. I'm not sure if anyone from Spain is in this live. If you live in an area that once belonged to Islam, know that according to Islam, the place where you are should also belong to Islam again. According to them, certain areas of Europe as well, yes, Islam, let me remind you, the Ottoman Empire reached as far as Austria and these areas, yes. So, the land of Israel, having belonged to Islam during the periods of Salah al-Din and later the Ottoman Empire, they believe that this territory should be returned. The Jews, we, under the theological perspective of Islam, are considered second-class people. The Jews, the Christians, they call us dhimmi, dima. It's a concept, let's say, of supremacy that exists in Islam. What is it? They are in Islamic territory and don't believe in Islam and are not Muslims. Are they considered dhimmi? Jews, since they don't believe in Islam, if we live in an empire under an Islamic regime, they call us dhimmi, the dhimmi. They are treated as second-class people who have to pay a racial tax called the jizya, a discriminatory tax called the jizya. A lot of stories like that. Now, imagine that this group of inferiors, called dhimmi, liberates a land that belonged to Islam. This is not only a very strong theological blow, but it doesn't stop there. The background of Islam is Judaism. A large part of the Quran is based on taking from what was Judaism. There are even entire quotes from the Talmud in the Quran. The Quran literally quotes Midrashim. So it's a theology that was based on Judaism. And what is one of the starting points of Islam? That Muhammad, who is the prophet, they call him Muhammad in Arabic. In Spanish, they call him Mahoma. They consider that he is the prophet who sealed the prophecy, meaning he is the last of the prophets. And that's why from him on is the true prophecy. And that's why Judaism is invalid. But now think that after 2000 years of exile, these people, the people of the Bible, liberate the land of the Bible. They return to the land of the Bible. They regain their country, surpass them, and make the land prosper again. So, this is like a very big theological blow. Because if Israel succeeds, it means that the Quran is a lie. Because the Quran starts from the point that Israel cannot succeed. or not the Quran, because in the Quran you can find justifications for how Zionism is allowed. There are branches of Islam that are Zionist and from the Quran. They take certain passages, certain ones with Spanish Leon, to laws for certain verses of the Quran to justify this idea of Zionist Islam. However, in the mainstream, this is inconceivable. How is it possible for a Jewish people who were dry bones? How can they come back? It's very strange. And that's why for Iran, it's a very big theological concern, and not just for Iran, but for the Islamic world. So I hope I answered your question. That's basically why.
Of course, yes, it's very, very deep, right? Because it involves several things: politics, territory, religion. It involves everything, right? And a quick question also about the same topic. From when I've watched your lives, you've talked about Palestine, right? That they had the opportunity once to become, if I'm not mistaken, to become a state, because the other Arab countries didn't support that initiative.
Honestly, I'm not sure if you're referring to Resolution 181 about the State of Israel, or if there was something before the State of Israel. There was an invasion with colonialism. That was what prevailed here. Whether it was Ottoman imperialism and then it was replaced by European imperialism by the British. The British had what was called the British Mandate over Palestine here, because that's the name Europe had imposed on this land, on Judea. And the British Mandate? What they did was that after World War II and during World War I, what they did was withdraw from the territory. There was a vote at the United Nations on November 29, 1947. This vote became known as Resolution 181, which proposed the creation of two states, a Jewish state and an Arab state, not a Palestinian state. And sorry, Rico, let me correct you. Nobody ever talked about a Palestinian state here until the 1960s. The idea of a Palestinian state is a modern fabrication. Before, people talked about an Arab country because the term Palestinian didn't exist. In fact, it's interesting that in the documents of the Ottoman Empire, the Palestinians were the Jews. They called the Jews Palestinians in a derogatory way. It wasn't an Arab national identity, as it's understood today with this flag, which was adopted after the Arab Legion and was adopted by the Palestine Liberation Organization after the 1960s. That's not what's happening. It's that after this partition plan, 33 countries agreed to the creation of those states and accepted Resolution 181 in the Assembly. The United Nations, but 13 countries, I think, abstained, but the rest of the countries, which are the minority, refused. The law of the law of the law, the law of the law, the partition plan, because if they accept it, that means accepting the creation of the State of Israel. That's the main reason, because imagine, if you were the government, the Arab one, and you say, okay, I want an Arab country, I accept it, but the condition for me to accept my Arab country is that I have to accept the existence of a Jewish country. And that's what they didn't accept. Do you understand how? How far can hatred go? They preferred not to have a state rather than accept the Jewish state. That's how it was. And that's the reason why the Palestinian state was never declared until 1988. Arafat makes a kind of symbolic declaration of independence, without territory, even without a government. Later on, in the 90s, in 1993 and 1994, there was a process called the Oslo Accords. Israel, once again, on purpose, throughout all these years, from 1947 until the 90s, Israel has repeatedly offered them autonomy and they have refused. It was only until the Oslo Accords that the so-called Palestinians agreed to have autonomy, and that's how the Palestinian Authority was created. In 2005, Israel handed over the Gaza Strip to the so-called Palestinians. Yes, because, again, I say so-called because they are not really a real identity. It's an invention from the 1960s. It's a modern invention. And what Israel did was give the Gaza Strip in 2005 so that they could create a country, and they created a country, right? What they created was a place called Hamastan, where terror rules. Up until this moment, we are the ones freeing them from their own role. So that's the reason why they didn't accept and still don't accept the creation of their own state. It's because they don't accept ours. That's the whole reason, period.